Hey, I am a Revision Geek and I want you to come and join my Revision Geek world. Welcome to the Diaries of a Revision Geek. I cannot wait for you to watch these interviews. They are so super fun. I've got qualified accountants together talking about their revision journeys, the highs, the lows, the struggles, and all the things in between about how other people got their plaque up on the wall and how they got qualified. I've picked qualified accountants in my LinkedIn network on purpose to help and support you guys, to inspire and motivate you if you are on your accounting journey. Feel free to like and subscribe below for more. Just click on the icons and I will keep you up to date with the Diaries of a Revision Geek. Let's get started. In today's interview, we have Kisneey. She is ACCA qualified and she has also obtained her Oxford degree through her ACCA qualification. In Kisneey's journey, we talk about how she felt like it was a never-ending journey to qualify, how she balanced her work life and study because she found it a massive juggle, and when she hit a brick wall, what she did about that. Kisneey is a quietly spoken lady, so apologies in advance for any quiet pieces of audio in this interview, but it's absolutely gold and worth watching. Enjoy the revision geekness and let me know what you think. Welcome, Kisneey. Thank you for being here. I cannot wait to learn and hear about your revision geek journey. Welcome to Diaries of a Revision Geek.
Thanks, Helen. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, this is going to be a really fun interview. I can't wait to chat to you. I know that I coached you. Let's not lie. We're going to talk about some of the coaching I gave you, but I didn't coach you through your whole journey. So I'm really excited to learn about other bits of your journey and how you started. Lots of the interviewers in this series, I haven't known what their journey is. So I know a little bit about your journey, which is just exciting. So I'm looking forward to hearing the rest. If you could just introduce yourself, tell us about you a little bit.
So I'm Kisneey, I'm 28 years old. I work in finance industry, a Selfridges Group. I'm based in London and I've probably been doing finance for the last 7 years. So very much in the throes of it.
And what qualification have you qualified in?
ACCA, I qualified in June 2021.
Very good. So recently. Okay, great. It's so great to be here. Let's get stuck straight in. I want to know all about your revision journey from the very start. So talk me through your ACCA journey.
So I started in 2012. I went down the non-traditional route. So most people start by doing their O-levels, A-levels, and then a degree. And they usually add on the professional qualification towards the end. But I skipped doing a degree and I did it the reverse. So what some people may or may not know, the ACCA, you can start from the very beginning, do all your 14 or now 30 papers, and then actually do a degree as an add-on at the end. So that's sort of, I guess I chose that route because I knew from day one I wanted to be an accountant. I am very much that camp of being an accountant geek, and I've always loved numbers and finance. So I feel like I just sort of knew what I wanted and I just went straight for it.
Oh, another fellow revision geek who has admitted it. Yay! Love it. Well, that's good. So did you know at the start you were going to do the degree at the end?
So I didn't know that actually. Going through the journey, ACCA split into 3 sections, and it was sort of in the applied skills section that I actually found that you can do this external degree at Oxford University, which I found really useful because whilst ACCA and all the other professional qualifications are really invaluable, there are some skills that a degree teaches you that a qualification doesn't, and vice versa. So I felt like it was a really good opportunity to get that experience.
And what was the number one skill would you say that you learned through the Oxford degree?
Presentation skills, which is something that I'm even now still always learning and trying to improve on. But you do have to do a presentation as part of the actual project. And it was just really nice to kind of practice public speaking and giving presentations.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, no, for sure. For my CIMA qualification, you learnt it through exams a little bit, but doing a real life presentation, I did do it at work, but that was just, I guess, my job. But if you don't do it at work, it's a really good opportunity to practice and be nervous, but practice and get it done. And now you've done it, right? So let's talk about your journey a little bit more. I would love to know a little bit about your highs or your lows. Talk me through that.
When I started from the very beginning of these essays, the F paper essentially, they were quite easy, quite straightforward. I think, not to oversimplify it, but I feel like they're quite a mirror of what you do at A levels. So it's multiple choice. And I kind of did it in the rote learning, which I know that I'm not supposed to. But it is very much read it, understand it, go into multiple choice. And I think it kind of was a nice way to ease you into the actual full spread of work. I was a full-time student, so I was fortunate not to have to work in the early days, just full-time studying. Back in those days, I feel very old saying that, it was only 2 sittings. So you did June, December. So you had basically 5.5 months to prepare, which was an ample amount of time, I would say. And I got through the first 9 papers really quickly. But I have to say, you know, by luck, by whatever you might believe in, it was really fortunate that I passed first time. And I think that kind of almost set a precedent for me that, you know, almost took it for granted that you study well and you're going to pass. And that, I think that formula does work. But it did shield me from something that does happen in real life, which is sometimes you might not pass first time. So I think the first part of my journey was very smooth. And I guess being a full-time student helped. I started working towards the last leg of the journey, professional papers. And there's some massive change in sort of my performance and just that work-life balance. It became really difficult studying and working full time.
And there's a step up with the professional level exams as well as that. Oh, so you definitely had two journeys really within that, I would say, right? As a full-time student, it was your number one thing, kind of. It was your life. That's what you were here to do. I guess, I'm assuming, but you know, like, as that was your number one, like, well, I'm here to be a student, this is what my focus is. So I'm interested in your rote learning then. So how did you approach that and how did that work for you?
So I studied with the BPT materials, and they have a lot of multiple choice practice kits. So it was almost a bit like students in the UK, and they're like the driving test. You can just learn everything in the book you're going to get. So I'm one of like 50 out of those questions. So for the first paper, which is just purely business studies, you just have to know every single theory, and you kind of not guaranteed you pass, but you have a good confidence level that you knew it. And for the second 2 papers, it was just all about formulas. So knowing the formulas, and then just plugging the different numbers. But I think practice is really key.
Yeah, well, I say that all the time, practice. But it does. I was talking about this in one of my other interviews. I know I didn't do enough practice questions, and I did avoid practice questions and mocks, and I talk about that in my journey. And I wish somebody had politely pushed me to do more questions, Helen, to like in exam conditions for sure. So yeah, practice, guys. So talk me through when you got the job and what your professional level journey was like.
So I started working in 2014. That's such a long time ago. And at that stage, I'd now reached the professional level. So in 2 years, I've completed 9 papers. That's what I mean. It went through it very quickly, and then sort of hit a brick wall, and it went really slowly after that. It was almost like 1 paper per sitting. And you know, I think one of the key things I've learned overall, which I come back to, is that everyone's journey is different and you really can't compare yourself. But it took me a long time and a good coach to show me that.
Yeah, you can't compare yourself, but I know that's so easy for us to say, but if we take, I talk about people's exam journeys a lot, and this is one of the reasons why I've put the interviews and the diaries together, because I wanted to show you how many different exam journeys there are. And yes, there's similarities, but everyone's journey is different. And I want us to embrace that this year for sure, and just enjoy that fact. Yeah. So feel free, carry on, tell us a little bit more.
So working full time, I started to just do one paper. So before I used to do like 3 all at once. Now I was just down to like 1 paper at a time. It did take me a long time. I had to actually skip doing the sitting and effectively take a year to complete it. I managed to clear it first time, but I think it sort of knocked my confidence that it was taking so long. It started to put, I guess, an internal pressure on myself. Why am I taking this long? And am I not going to finish within a certain time? Another thing which has changed is we still have 7 years to complete the full papers and get all your full qualifications. So I had a bit of a time restraint on me.
Yeah, and you're definitely not the only one with that inner voice. I work with clients who have taken, students who have taken a number of years for sure, yeah. And that inner voice is needs to be managed and controlled. I mean, there's a length of time to go through these exams so that you get the rewards at the end of this. You don't want to be studying for like 10, 20, 30 years, guys, do you? But try not to beat yourself up just if you do miss a sitting for whatever reason. You had a reason, I'm sure, and just pick yourself up to the next one. And that little inner voice, I want to turn up the volume of your confidence on that inner voice, guys, because it doesn't need to make you feel bad about yourself when you're sitting an ACCA or CIMA qualification, right?
Definitely. I think with the different companies I've worked for, I've had different experiences as well in terms of manager support. So in my first job, I'm fortunate to say I didn't really get very much support. So it was using all my annual leave in order to study and sit the exams, which was a bit depressing. It just meant that I never had any actual time for myself, and my whole life definitely was just studying. It used to feel never ending. And I used to just kind of think, is this all I'm going to do every year? My second job, I had a lot of support from a manager, and I was able to do like compressed hours and much more flexibility in terms of managing the study part of my life. I also sort of went through different phases of learning with learning providers, then in self-study, and that's something else I noticed, a change in performance.
That's interesting. I did some self-study myself as well. So talk me through your self-study journey.
So I usually tended to self-study after I'd done a particular course with a learning provider. So I'd have the materials and knowledge, but it was more, for whatever reason, I didn't sit the exam. I wouldn't have to choose to go back to class. I'd have to relearn and reteach myself everything again. It's definitely harder to motivate to actually set that time. One thing I loved about having a tutor or a college to go to is they give you a timetable, you turn up for classes, you put that structure in your life. It's very difficult. And that line between work and studying or even a personal life just gets so blurred, and you sometimes end up only focusing on one or the other. And then you don't feel like you're doing a good job at either of them.
Yeah, and then that inner voice comes back again, right? Or it's just there even louder.
Yeah, definitely. I did experience that voice a lot of times. There was actually a point where I had to stop studying and I had to just work full time, just due to personal circumstances. And I think another sort of piece of advice for our listeners, I would say, is if you do take a break for whatever reason, try to minimize how long that gap is, because it is really difficult to get yourself going again. I ended up effectively taking almost 2 years out from the overall study time and the journey itself. And whilst I could sort of look back and have those regrets and sort of feel very angry at myself at why did I take so long, I would say the ultimate learning curve for me is if you do take a break, just remember what your end goal is, and go back to it at some point, but don't sort of dwell too long on how long you're taking to do that. Just do it.
I'm glad you said that, for sure. Yeah, because people do have to take time off and breaks for some whatever reason, and I would never have a problem with anybody who wanted to do that, but it is, I do remind you guys politely, like, you started this for a reason, you do want to finish. Could we finish? You know, it can help you, let's do this together, but yeah, get back on and don't lose the guilt a little bit. It happened for a reason. It is what it is. I say that all the time, but it did, and we can start again. You know, you've got 7 years to qualify, obviously, from your first. There's certain rules with the 7 years, isn't there? But you want to finish as well, because you started this for a reason. So let's get back on it and not feel guilty, and then just get back on track in a new way, for sure. Even if that is 2 years later, you can still do it. I wrote a blog a few weeks ago about how I have some clients who are over 50. They're still qualifying. There's no age limit to these things, guys.
I completely agree with you, Helen. I think we do place a lot of societal pressures and cultures on ourselves, which needn't be there at all. So I guess, yeah, in terms of just sort of finalizing on the journey itself, I did take quite a while towards the end, so I did one paper at a time. You have 4 at a time. It was 5. It's changed now. So how long I've taken? 5 papers I have to complete with freshman level. So first 4 first-time classes, but they did take 4 years effectively. And the final paper is the one that sort of really pushed me. I think it was like that saying, the straw that breaks the camel's back. It was really difficult, and it was my first fail of any exam in my life. Not to sound like a goody two-shoes or too much of a geek, but I think that fail really was a wake-up call. It was quite difficult to sort of accept.
Yeah, so even though for your professional level you took a number of years, you know, to do your 3 or 4, the last one was the tough one, right? And because you failed, it was tougher, for sure, right? In lots of ways. Maybe that inner voice had just crept up and up and up as well, and it was the last one. So yeah, let's talk about a little bit about our coaching and why you came to me for that last one and how I can help you pass. Oh, I've just spoiled the story as well, haven't I? I mean, not tell everyone you've passed yet, but oh well, yeah, you have. But yeah. So if you want to talk us through your last exam, obviously you failed, and then so how did you feel when you failed, and what did you know you needed to do?
So I guess the first thing I'll probably just mention, which I didn't in the beginning, is I self-funded all of my exams. I know there's lots of different routes that you can do, where it's companies, etc., scholarships. For me, I just self-funded it, and that's one reason I started working midway through. The last paper, the company that I currently work for, they paid for it, but there was a rule, like many companies, if you fail, you have to resit and pay it yourself. And you also have to stay with the company for more amount of time, and there's lots of rules behind it. So I felt lots of anxiety and guilt, and sort of like I let people down because everyone knew that I was doing it. They all kept asking questions, and I guess that pressure adds onto itself, where you sort of feel like you then have to tell everyone the result at the end. And it was more than once. I failed the last over 4 times, which, you know, I think every time just felt a little bit worse. And I think it took so much more each time to then come back to the start and then have to face yourself at studying. I think that's one of the hardest things on exam day that we all, you know, will face. And for those of us who have never experienced it, well done. For those of us who have and know, it is so crushing. And I feel like there's no amount of words that really at that point makes you feel any better. But I think once that day passes, you'll start to sort of see that light again. It sounds very cliched, but that's how it felt for me.
So going to that then, I totally understand. You are absolutely not alone. I felt the embarrassment having to tell my bosses that I failed, and my colleagues who were around me were passing, and and they did support some of my study as well. So I just had to maybe ask for some more money or self-fund it myself for resits, and it definitely should not be so embarrassing. But try to just take some emotion out of it if you have to tell your boss, and you tried hard, these qualifications are hard, guys. Like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world if you fail. Honestly. And time is a healer, even if it's exam day. Yes, you're absolutely allowed to cry on exam day, but I promise you the next day you will feel better, and I promise you the next week you'll feel better, and it will be lighter, and you'll just be able to get on with it, book your resit, feel so much better for sure. But you are not the only one who resonates with that feeling, for sure, honestly, because we care, we really want to pass. We don't just do this for fun, as in like, oh yeah, I'll just sit in an exam and see how I go. No, we're like revision Olympians, right? These are tough exams, so we put 100% in, and unfortunately sometimes Mr. ACCA and Mr. CIMA don't give us a P word, they give us an F word, damn it. So you failed your final exam 4 times, and then what happened?
About a year before the 4th fail, I was on LinkedIn, which I use actively, and I came across Helen Pretty, and it was actually Pretty Coaching. And I just read Pretty and I just loved the name. I was like, oh, that sounds like girly and something that I'm really into. So I started following you, Helen, about a year before. So that was in 2020. And I used to follow all the posts, but I never really thought about coaching as, I guess, a thing. It sounds a bit silly. I know lots of people who've done the career coaching, but I didn't think about it in the context of studying revision exams. And I just used to see your posts and just, kind of read them, absorb them, but not really do anything with them. I think that's one of the mistakes some of us probably get guilty of doing, reading really vital information and not doing anything with it.
Oh, so I'm glad you saw me on LinkedIn, though. I'm very active on there. I do hang out on LinkedIn every single day, for sure. And yeah, I put out content to help and support. And I know sometimes people just read it, sometimes people action it, but it takes a little bit of time, right? You saw me probably every day for a year, and then you learned to like me and trust me and know what I was talking about, right? And then you're like, you had a brainwave, like, oh, this lady might be able to help me.
It was last year summer, actually. I would say spring, April time. I saw your bootcamp, the Revision Bootcamp, and because I think I subscribed to your mailing list, every time that you would do them, again, it didn't really click to me at the time that maybe it's something I should take up. I used to just see it would pass my mailbox, and then obviously I've missed the opportunity. But I read your post and it's something to sign up to this program, so I just went on a whim. I joined the boot camp, and I have to say those 3 days were really life-changing. It sounds so cliched, but I'm just being as honest as I can. At that time, I got my results. I usually get them in April, and that was when the Revision boot camp started, like a week after. I was so depressed from failing for the 4th time, and I think that's what really brought me back. I have to say, I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't joined. I would just waited another sitting and still been here in 2022 at unqualified.
Yeah, I mean, I love putting my boot camps on, the revision events on. So the one you came to was called the Best Exam Ever Boot Camp, how to have your best exam ever. And yeah, I coached you for a week for free. That's what I do in my boot camps. And it was just so fun. You interacted, you did the homework, you were there and present. So in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I wish you had joined earlier. I wish you had seen them and taken action, for sure. But you came, and then you reached out for some coaching. Oh no, did you? Oh, well, you won the prize, right? So you came to the Best Exam Ever Bootcamp, and as always, I reward action takers. So there were some prizes and a little competition going on in my bootcamp. So Kisneey won the competition. She won some one-to-one coaching with me, and she won membership to the Ultimate Revision Club. You're allowed to join if you want it. And yeah, Kisneey won the prize. So she got some one-to-one coaching with me for free because she showed up and did the homework. She didn't just win. Yeah, so talk us through that a little bit, like the coaching and how much difference it made to you.
First thing I have to say is I think your motivation and probably self will put anyone else for rut. So during the 3 days bootcamp itself, we learned different aspects of revision, and it really broke down revision as an actual part of your studies, not just the qualification, which is something I had never viewed at that angle before. I think it's really important to look at revision as separate from studying, which is again something that blurs together. So that was really fun. And I guess also the community, meeting other students. Again, self-studying, what you don't get is you don't get friends, or you don't get, you know, people you can interact and talk to, or doing something similar, you've got something in common with, and even help each other. I think that community is really important, but just sitting in your bedroom, especially during lockdown, is not fun for anyone. So I would say bootcamp itself taught me a lot, but being the prize winner was really exciting and very unexpected. I don't think I've ever done anything in my life, but it was really, really grateful for that. I think the one-to-one coaching, it made me really reflect on myself and ask me questions which I would never ask myself. Just being able to have someone to talk to, I think, really understands, because, you know, my parents or colleagues, again, everyone had their own journey, but even some people had no journey because they just won't really get where you're coming from and the experiences you've had. So having a coach is a really good experience. It's like having a friend who's also really knowledgeable and can tell you things that will help you rather than trying to just figure it out yourself. It's like wearing a life jacket, I would say, in the water, sort of wading around trying to save yourself.
Oh, that's a good analogy. But yeah, it's true, isn't it? Because if you failed 4 times, let's be honest, most of us will say, well, you're clearly doing something wrong, or you're repeating habits that are not working for you. Oh, that lifeboat analogy is actually really useful because and empowering to me when I hear things like that, because I love an analogy. We all know that. But that's so true, because on the outside, without being rude to anybody, if you failed for 4 times, you're clearly doing a cycle that's really not serving you, or it's just not working. You're doing the same thing over and over, which isn't working. So it's time to change, make a transformation, tweak some things, do something differently. That might be get a coach, that might be change tuition provider, that might be to the different style of revision. But obviously, you know, like you said, you didn't really have the same perspective on study and revision that I talk about. You know, very black and white with that. So that might have just been the change you needed. But obviously we had some one-to-one coaching, which was just really fun. And I did ask you some deep dive questions. You know, I did get to know you as a person, because we identified confidence as something that you wanted more of, and I wanted you to have more of for yourself, especially as a resitter, so the confidence you need as a resitter. So we did work very much on that for you, and obviously you can talk to us about your journey. My opinion was, oh, your confidence just soared, you know, throughout the month that I coached you, and I could see such a big difference. It was so good.
Thank you. I would definitely say having the one-to-one coaching helped me be able to identify those weaknesses that I would perceive before. And I think it is really important to have someone to talk to about these things, because it's really difficult to sort of just see it from a closed angle. The other thing that I really found so useful at bootcamp was also all the resources. And 100% wish I had joined before, because in the month that I had with you, it was like trying to absorb all of it. But with the confidence, one thing I also really want to mention is, prior to meeting you and not just seeing your posts, but actually getting to know you and being part of that community, I was really afraid of that F word. And I think the confidence you brought out in me, I was no longer afraid. I'm not saying that I wouldn't mind, not passing again, but I felt like if it had happened in that way, it might not have been as bad as it was the other 4 times. And I think passing really just made me see that I was doing something, that was working for me, and I needed to change that. And I really recommend having a coach, just because it helped me to kind of see that you don't need to do everything by yourself. Whoever you choose to sort of, whether you do self-study or do learning providers, I think it's just really important to have some kind of guidance. Just doing it on your own, you probably make it at some point, but would you rather do something in 5 months or 5 years?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And like I do say, like, I'm here as a coach. You can absolutely speak to me and get some coaching from me, but there's other opportunities as well, other tuition providers, coaches, colleagues, qualified accountants, experts who can help and support you as mentors. So please know that you're not alone. Like, I self-studied some of mine as well, and there's no need for us to feel alone, guys. Right? I've got the Ultimate Revision Club, which Kisneey was a member of, and there's a community. I've built a community. Come and join if you'd like to. The link is here somewhere. And it's a community of qualifying accountants studying CIMA and ACCA on purpose. So we've got each other's back. We can help and support each other, and we're going through these very similar revision journeys for sure, right? And it made a difference. Like, I knew we needed to boost your confidence. We boosted your confidence. And then what happened?
Then I sat the exam in June. I walked into that exam room with your voice in my head, and it was, which I'll get to, the one piece of advice that I would then share with everyone is I kept that advice going, and throughout the whole 3 hours and 15 minutes, I just did it. I just did that advice. 6 weeks later, I got the results of my
pass. Yay! And we were still nervous. We didn't know, did we? We're not going to be overconfident. We'd be like, oh yeah, just because she's had some coaches, she's going to pass now. But on that day, we screamed on the phone. I was just like so excited. I was so proud of you as well. Just super excited. And you finished. It was your last exam, and I am biased. I love helping people with their last exams. Like, it's just this extra little cherry on top that I just know my confidence and motivation and enthusiasm as a revision geek just goes on overdrive because it's your last one. Like, amazing.
I remember one thing I learned from Bootcamp was a secret formula: knowledge plus confidence equals success. And even now, I still apply that to my working life. That's something else I would say about the Revision Club. It's for revision, but I feel like so much of what you learn from there you can apply to your working life and anywhere else. So if you study later down the years, you'll still have that same skills that you learned from that bootcamp. I think it was such a great thing to join. I do wish I joined it sooner. It's one of my regrets, but I'm glad. Never too late, as they say.
No, it's never too late. Yeah, it was your last exam, and it got you. Everything happens for a reason. It got you passed, and it got you qualified. So I'm just really glad that I can help you in your revision journey. It's super good, super fun to learn about journeys, right? I love it. Thank you for telling us. I'm just going to ask you a few questions though. So, question number 1, what opportunities did you think would come from being qualified?
So I'm at the point where I've done my exams. I'm just waiting for some objectives to be signed up, and then I can sort of consider myself qualified. In terms of opportunities, I would say job title change, and I get more opportunities in terms of working. So whether that would be a promotion or a pay rise, I think those are sort of the main opportunities I would like to see materialize at some point. But for me personally, I've yet to sort of see that come into play.
I can't wait for you to tell me when you've got a new job and you're on this pay scale and you've got your plaque up on the wall. I cannot wait for your photo for that. Okay, final question. One question I'm asking everybody, because I give so many revision tips. That's all I do, give revision tips as a revision geek. I would love to know what your number 1 revision tip is for qualifying accountants listening.
I would say practice all your questions, whether it's multiple choice, computer-based, paper, in exam conditions. don't let the first time you're doing this be on the exam day. Really get yourself prepared. In fact, let the exam day be in your mind as if you're just in your room doing some practice questions. So really just practice, but in the right conditions too.
That is a perfect tip. Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I try to say that all the time, but now I've got someone who's got my back, who's qualified. It does make a huge difference. Practice in exam conditions. That's it. If that's all you do in your 4-week revision phase, then you're on to be a smart revision champion for sure, because it makes a huge difference. Of course, you won't be ready and you'll be scared and you can freak out, but you can freak out in the comfort of your study area at home or in your bedroom or lounge or something, so that on exam day you don't freak out and it's just this normal, like, oh yeah, I've done loads of questions like this, just another one. That's a great tip. Thank you so much. Oh, it's been so good to interview you, Kisneey. Thank you for being here. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
It's been really lovely to spend this time with you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad I can be part of your revision journey. But yeah, here's to revision geeks around the world.